Okay, so I want to start here. And I want to make sure that this is okay and out of range. There we go. So we are gathered here today to talk about your intuition. Those moments where you weren't sure if you made it up, if it was your imagination, if you created it. There are a number of components that come into play with this. And so through this hour, I'm just going to touch base on a number of them. Some of them you might go, yeah, I know that, I understand that, but other ones might help put another puzzle piece to it. It's kind of my teaching method, is I like to come at something at a couple different angles, maybe an analogy or two. If you've been taught by me before, you know that. Love my analogies. But first I want to talk a little bit about who I am, because there's a bunch of people on here that I don't recognize your name, which means we haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, but I'm grateful that you're here. So I am gonna go ahead and skip right on over. So full official name is Isabel Maxwell, but everybody calls me Bo. So stick with Bo. It's a lot easier. Otherwise, the temptation is to say Isabel, which I totally understand. But no, people have pretty much called me Bo for forever. All right. Me personally, I was not open all the time. I know this is a goofy photo of me, but it's a photo of me that shows you what I do every day, which is geek out in tech. And for me, I spent the majority of my life being a skeptic. It wasn't until 15 years ago that everything changed. I am a Taurus. I am a math major. I'm scientifically oriented. I need 1 + 1 has to be 2. I have another business that's online marketing. I'm a recovering type A. I like to say that I'm a recovering type A. I think I like to think that I am, and just really work toward that life balance. But that's the balance that I have to go to. So I'm able to come to you and talk to you about this process because I used to be a complete skeptic, and then everything opened up for me. So it was back in 2005 when everything opened. And it was quite a wild ride. I want to tell you it in the shortest possible way, but I want to introduce you to my grandmother. And I love this photo. My cheeks, I'm 10 years old right there. My cheeks are beet red, but I absolutely love this photo because it talks about exactly what she was to me. And I think it's a really good representation to show here while I talk a little bit about her. So back in 2005, I had a really chaotic life going on. And I was in New Hampshire and my grandmother was in Minnesota, and she was passing away. She was in hospice. And my aunt, I talked to my aunt on the phone. I was able to say verbally goodbye to her over the phone to my grandmother. I could hear the rattle in her voice. And again, remember, complete skeptic, didn't believe in any of this stuff. There was psychics were frauds, which I love to joke about now because that's I get it now. I totally understand it. So I got to say goodbye to her over the phone right before she passed. And it was really, 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 really hard. And I hung up the phone, and my husband took the kids to run to the store and get wine and chocolate because he was very giving that day. And so I was alone in the house, and I was standing in the living room, and I was trying to decide, do I book my airline ticket, or do I lay down on this couch and just lose it and fall apart? I mean, I know she was passing, and many of you can relate to what that's like when someone's in hospice, but it doesn't make it any easier when the moment happens. So I'm standing there trying to make this decision, and she showed up in the middle of my living room, just popped right into the middle of my living room. She was about 70% transparent. So she was there enough that this was unmistakable. And I remember it really scared me. It really frightened me. And so I remember yelling at her, don't do that. If that's you, don't do that. I yelled something along those lines. And then she turned and she looked at me and she winked, and then she disappeared. And then she started to come back and keep coming back and keep coming back. It took me a little while, a lot of therapy, a lot of balancing, a lot of soul searching to figure out, okay, I need this to, I need to be open to the possibility. And once I opened to the possibility, the proof came in over and over and over. And then I started to see more people, started to share it with my friends, that this was happening to me. And then I started to do readings on a personal level with my friends. That brought me all the way here to you today, where very quickly I ended up doing professional readings, teaching students the SAGE method, just courses like this, and sharing everything that I figured out along the way. Because when I opened up, going from skeptic to wide open like that, I had a lot that I needed to understand. I just needed to understand why, how, what's going on. And then that in turn allowed me to teach, which I found out I have a massive passion for. So she's so funny. So thank you. Look at the attitude. Do you love the attitude? I love this picture too. I love her attitude. Yeah, she's looking at me like, yeah, I knew what I was doing. So she's a pretty awesome lady, but that's what brings me here to you today. When I opened, one of the most frustrating things for me was that question. When something would happen to me, did I make it up or was that intuition? And I struggled a lot to figure out, okay, what is this? So it kind of dove me into, I dove into learning about the brain and learning about how things flow and having a lot of discussions with my spiritual guides, as a matter of fact, to say, hey, I need some help with this. Eventually, having started to teach a bunch more people, I'm starting to see this pattern. This is a struggle for most people that I meet, most people. And it is a sentence that is so familiar. Did I make that up? Is that real? What's going on? And so it put me in the right direction to learn how to teach it. The way that I like to overall talk about imagination, intuition, is they're kind of mirror-like. Well, they're really very mirror-like. There's a number of reasons that I'll get into as we go through here, but the goal of this session should be to set you up in such a way that you understand what's happening and what the function is, why they are so similar, and then start to take an observational view of these moments that you have where you're not sure if it's imagination or intuition. When you put those three things into place, you get a little bit of understanding, and you can set your motive for taking a step back and looking at it the way it is. You're going to start to feel the subtle differences between the two. And once you start to feel those subtle differences, you got it. That's it. For some people, it's very quick. For some people, it takes a little time. I will be honest with you. It took me, once I really focused in on this and said, okay, this is my goal right now, is to be able to distinguish between the two of these. Once I did that, then it maybe a few months to where it was like, oh, when something would happen, I would know that feeling. Okay, I know that when it comes through and I'm feeling like this, I know it's imagination. Or when it comes through and I'm feeling like this, I know it's intuition, because we can make things up subconsciously through our imagination. So that's the overall goal of this. This is what we're going to cover. We're going to talk about right brain versus left brain. We're going to talk about flow versus creating. And then we're going to talk about training the dog, and we're going to talk about discovery meditation. Both tools that, the tool for training the dog we'll cover in here, and then discovery meditation, I'll make sure that you can get some access to that. Okay, so let's jump right on in. Right brain versus left brain. This is where the science geek loves this stuff. Okay, your right brain is very creative. It is spur of the moment. It is inspirational. It's like those little pop-up moments. It's artistic. If you are an artist, I actually know a couple of you in here are artists. So if you have artistic outlets that you like to do, you notice you get lost in time with those. That's because the right brain doesn't anchor very tightly to linear time. It is where intuition flows because it's not linked to judgment. It's very free flowing. Now the left brain, on the other hand, is very analytical, very logical, methodical, and downright opinionated. That's the way you got to start thinking about your left brain, is that that's opinionated. And what happens when information flows through us, it's either created or it is flowing. And when it flows through the right brain, it's intuition. That's that flow. When messages are coming through that creative, free-flowing, non-limited, non-structured, non-logical space, that's how intuition can flow freely. Whereas if it's pushed through the left brain, that's imagination, because the left brain is focused on trying to understand things and put two and two together. It cares about the answer, about the outcome, and all that kind of stuff. So that's one way to think about it. Right brain, flow, left brain, create. So learning to feel the difference between the two of these, that's that subtle mirror effect that I showed in the earlier clip with the mountains. That's learning, oh, okay, this feels a little bit like I'm being pulled, or this feels a little bit like I'm pushing. There's a very subtle difference, but we'll get it. Flow versus creating. Okay. The kicker to all of this, here's some reasoning and understanding behind why it's hard sometimes to tell the difference, is because imagination and intuition both use the same nervous system. They use the same 5 senses. Everything comes through. So if you visually see something when you're creating it through your imagination, it looks this way. And if it's visually created and pulled up through your intuition, it looks the same way. So most of the time it's very, very difficult to be able to distinguish, because in essence, both imagination and intuition are using the same senses to communicate with you. You're either using those 5 senses to create something, or you're allowing intuition to flow through those 5 senses to tell you a story. So in essence, then what I'm saying is that the vehicle that both of them use is the same. So a train goes flowing through your head and you're like, I don't know which side of the brain that one was on. Because again, subconsciously, we can, create, and we can use our imagination and create things. And we think that they might be intuition, but we're not sure because we were just thinking about something else. So could be that iceberg under the water kind of experience for you in the subconscious field. So this is what happens. Cutest little baby. Your 5 senses collect experiences for you as you go through your life. So when you see that soccer ball for the first time, you identify what, I don't think the baby's sitting here really nitpicking the stitching quality on this soccer ball, but this is the first time that the baby has seen the soccer ball. So then it comes into your existence because you've experienced it. This is the same. I'm going to be using visuals here, but this is the same for sounds and for smells and for tastes. So once you have that experience, it's stored as a memory. And your nervous system holds on to these things like photos in a photo album, or, it's locked up in a safe somewhere where you do know what the smell of violet smells like, or peppermint, or what a soccer ball looks like, or a tennis ball. All of that becomes part of your storage, sort of a storage system within you. Now, what happens is on a random day, so you're now a grown adult, you're just walking around and you're not doing anything soccer related, but yet a random image of a soccer ball just pops into your head. This is that moment where you say, is this intuition or is it imagination? So the imagination piece of this, if it has gone through the left brain, if it was created, in essence, what's happened is your left brain has requested the memory out of that storage bank. It said, okay, I want to create an image of a soccer ball, so I'm going to go into that bank and I'm going to pull it out. Now, if it was your intuition, your right brain experienced the memory. The memory flowed through you and gave you a message, in essence. Now, I'm going to pause here for a second because some people tend to have this question very frequently, which is, well, where does the intuition come from? So I get that imagination is created from you, but where does intuition come from? Intuition comes from your guide, messages of intuitive nature come from your higher self, come from your core, from your guides, from your source, from spirit. For you, you will need to come up with those terms that fit you, because everyone watching this has a different spiritual path, different names for what's really meaningful for them. But intuitive information is sent to us like a story requested that's sent through us that uses our memories to create that story for us, but that's done outside of us. So our intuition is within us, But an outside source, our higher self, all-knowing, spirit, whatever word resonates with you, because in essence, they're kind of all the same thing overall. When they want to deliver a message, they're going to use your intuition, and they're going to have you experience that memory. Hope that makes sense. It can get a little, here's a couple more ways to say it. Intuition happens to you. So your memories are used to tell you a story. Something is trying to relay that information. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like when I talk about guides or, you know, a spirit or a past loved one or something, that's very mediumship. If you have a psychic experience where your intuition is telling you psychic information, it's the energy coming from what you're reading that is using your intuition and telling you a story through your memory bank. Imagination happens because of you. Your memories are put together to create something. And we know when we're doing it on purpose. It's that moment that we imagine something, but we're not sure, and it just pops in, and we think, oh, well, if it popped in, then it's intuition. But then you find out it was wrong. It wasn't intuition. You end up finding out it was imagination. That's because our left brain is always running. It's always putting things together. And your intent and your wishes and your desires will spark your imagination to create. And that's where it feels like it just came out of nowhere, but it was your imagination. Another way to say this, to kind of come into it at a different angle here, is that when we talk about somebody's accuracy, intuitive accuracy, if they're 90% accurate, first off, that's really awesome. But second off, if they're 90% accurate, that means 10% of their time, the left brain has stepped in and used imagination to create. And that's done because of desire, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a moment. So your goal in this, and this is the overall thought process I want you to have as we continue talking, is to work to identify the two, to start to see the subtle differences between the two. There is a flow versus creation. So just looking at this image here, all these gears in the brain, imagine information either being pulled through those gears or you pushing information through those gears. So if it's being pulled through the gears are just rotating behind it. If it's being pushed, the gears are pushing it forward. It's a very subtle feel, but once you start to grab onto it and sense it, which these tools are going to help dramatically for you, hopefully, you'll start to feel there's either something is being forced through the gears or something is being allowed to flow through the gears. You could even extend that analogy to if we're looking at this image here, if it is imagination, then those gears do need to move to get it through. Where if it's intuition, it probably can flow through and not move a single gear. And there's another way to look at it. And lastly, with this concept, identifying attached versus unattached. So do you have a desire toward this or an intention toward it? If you do, chances are you have a higher percentage chance that it is going to be imagination and not intuition. So how attached you are to it plays a role in this. So when we put all these things together, it's going to help you to be able to move forward. Okay, so this brings me to the tools, which we're getting to super quick, which is great. Okay, tool number one, train the dog. One of my all-time favorite analogies is the mail carrier and the dog. So your right brain, remember, is creative and artistic. Imagine your right brain is a mail carrier and they're delivering the mail. Get it? Intuition is being delivered. So a message is coming through. That's the right brain. Well, the left brain is a dog barking at the mail carrier. And when you can grab onto this analogy and identify information flowing through your brain this way, also when you think about this while you're focused on collecting intuitive information, it helps tremendously, because your goal should be to train the dog to hold still. So this is what it looks like. Let's say I'm sitting down and doing a reading for someone, and information, the mail carrier, the right brain, is coming through. So intuitive information is flowing through the right brain, and the left brain is going to bark at the right brain by saying, well, I wonder, maybe, do you think? I think it could be. I can relate to that. I know what you're talking about. Blah, 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 blah. That's the barking of the left brain. That's the barking of the dog. So super quick example, and I've given this in past teachings as well, but it holds really true. I did a reading years ago for a super sweet woman. She came in and she gave me a ceramic bowl. I will never forget it. It's one of my favorite examples. And because I hold objects and read information off of objects of people who have passed. It's called psychometry. Look it up. It's pretty, if you're not familiar with it, it's a fantastic tool. And so I'm holding the ceramic bowl, and I sit and I just relax, and I get an image of a semi-truck kind of passing through the room. And that flowed through my right brain. That was intuitive information. But my left brain went, oh, hey, by the way, the dog went, bah, 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 bah. I said, oh, a semi-truck. Your grandfather just, drove a semi-truck. So maybe somebody in their family drives a semi-truck. The left brain tried to figure it out. It interrupted the right brain. It interrupted the intuition to say, bah, 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 bah. So I was a newbie. I was just getting started with my readings. And so that's what I said. I'm sitting there holding the bowl, and I said to the young woman, oh, you have a trucker in the family. And she was like, nope. Awkward. So I just sat back and I relaxed, and I did exactly what I'm telling you to do here. I told the dog to sit still, just shush, shush, shush. Okay. And another way to say that is I allowed myself to sit and hold space where I didn't try to figure it out. I'm just going to let it happen, and I'm just going to say what I see, feel, and hear. That is the best intuitives out there. Just say what they see, feel, and hear. Their left brain is quiet. The dog is trained to be, shh, this is not about you, dog. It's time for your nap. We're going to let the right brain go. When I did that, the same semi-truck flowed through the room again. And I could feel it. I felt like it was happening to me again. Flow versus pull versus push. And I felt like that I watched as this image of the truck pulled through the room, and down the side of the truck was a huge billboard kind of picture of Jolly Ranchers. And when I said that, the woman lit up. She said, yes, that's my grandmother's ceramic bowl you're holding. And my entire life, she had Jolly Ranchers in that bowl. So see what happens when you train the dog and you get yourself out of the middle of it. And that's exactly what the first tool here is to do. Whatever it takes. So I'm actually going to stay on this slide for a minute, because this is where I invite you to get creative. You know yourself well enough. I invite you to get creative on how you're going to train the dog to sit still. I would love to tell you that there's magical words like sit Fido, and it works, and the left brain shuts down and your right brain can just go on and on and on intuitively. But it's not like that. Every person is different, and each person has a different personality, and because of that, your left brain is going to be sparked by something different than what my left brain might be sparked by. You might be pulled to connect your emotions to intuitive information. I might be pulled to connect 1 + 1 has to equal 2. If that's a semi-truck, somebody has to be a trucker. Do you know what I mean? So think about your personality and what you need to do to hold yourself quiet, hold your left brain quiet. And for some people, it's music. They play music while they get intuitive information. And I know I've taught hundreds of students at this point, and I've heard some of the coolest stories. I had one student played Bach, played classical music, and it like lulled the left brain to sleep. A lot of people hold objects and fiddle with them. That one works well for me. And those are the types of people that they learn better when they're hands-on. and they're doing things themselves. So if you can fiddle with something, and it doesn't even have to be, it can be your phone or a pen, it can be anything. Sometimes just fiddling with an object is enough to quiet your left brain down, to get that dog to, so it's kind of like shaking a little squirrel. The dog's like, squirrel, and is now out of the picture. Whatever it takes to do that. You've seen readers out there, is it Patricia? Or, no, that's the actress. I can't think of her name. She's so wonderful, and she was what they based the show Medium on. But she does writing. She writes consistently with pen on paper while she's collecting intuitive information. And I watch that, and I know that there's multiple reasons for why she does that, but it's a tool that she's using. It's like the dog is watching the pen on the paper. So when the information comes in the right brain, it doesn't look at the information and try to bark at it and figure it out. What does it sound like when, how do you know? So then there's the next question. How do you know when your left brain's interrupting your right brain? When your left brain is interrupting your right brain, there are key words to look for. I think, I wonder, maybe, could be, I can relate to this. Anything that sounds like a dog who now has human abilities to speak. Anything that sounds like that, where if it sounds like you're trying to figure it out, or that you have an opinion, that is coming from your left brain. That kind of calculation and logic does not come from your right brain. I think I said that right. Dog left brain. There we go. So the first step, there's two parts of this tool of training the dog. The first step is, what is going to calm it down? What is going to distract it? There are going to be times during the day where you have higher accuracy intuitively. That is going to be because each of us are, early risers or night owls. Each of us have moments where we are more focused. If I have to wake up in the morning and do a reading for somebody, it's really tough for me to keep that left brain quiet. I am not on my game. Same will be true for how your unique energy system works. Are you better calming the dog when you have a full stomach, or when you have an empty stomach, or in the morning or at night? I know a reader that found out, so in some of the courses I have people try out different ways, like do a reading in the morning, do a reading in the afternoon, or reading cards, try to decipher between yes or no. And they're fun exercises, but I have people try them out in all these different situations. And I had one student, she was so fun. She said she struggled. And then the next week went by and she's like, I'm still struggling. My accuracy is still like at 50-50. It's like picking yes or no cards. And she said, I'm still right at 50-50. And then like another week went by and she said, I figured it out. She said, at the end of the day, I took a bath, and for the fun of it, I brought the cards in and I picked the cards and I got like 95% accuracy. And we just laughed because it was like, well, you're now the bathtub reader, I guess. But she actually went on to be a professional reader. She is a professional reader, and she keeps a bowl of water within a foot of her. And if she needs to, she'll put her fingers into the water and just sort of hold it. And it's her tool. Connecting to water works for her. So this sometimes isn't something that you can figure out overnight, but if you have it in your head to understand, okay, I just need to know my best space to be in for my intuitive accuracy to be highest. Once you start to focus on that and learn, it's going to help with this entire process. So, and now that is talking about when you're sitting down and having an intuitive moment on purpose, when you're sitting down trying to, like what we like to say is tap in. The second part of this is if something pops in, were you trying to figure it out? Do you have a vested interest in the situation, or are you just going with the flow? And I love this. This is left brain, right brain, right there. This is the best visual description I think I've ever seen of it. And left brain is adamant. I want to know. I want to know. Maybe this is it. I want to figure it out. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? So when something happens to you, just pops into your head like a soccer ball. If you just you just have no you're not a soccer fan, you don't really care, your kids aren't in soccer, you just can't seem to connect it, chances are really good it's intuitive and not your imagination. But if you've been shopping for soccer gear for a week, it probably is your imagination. So there's another angle to look at this, is how much of a vested interest do you have in this? And if you're going to revisit this, which is what I'm going to ask you to do next, how can you let go of the outcome? So I'm going to stay here on this one for just a second because, well, in essence, it's what we're going to talk about. But I like to tell people to rinse and repeat. So what I've been talking about just for the last, 4 or 5 minutes here has been when you sit down and you try to tap in to collect intuitive information. That's what I've been talking about. The second scenario, which some of you are thinking, yes, I want to talk about what happens when it just pops in. That is the second scenario. You're walking around, you're cleaning your house, you go shopping, you're out for a drive, hanging out at the park, and something just pops in randomly into your mind. I like to tell people, rinse and repeat. Take all of the knowledge that I have given you here about right brain, left brain, quieting the dog, and then rinse and repeat. Meaning, if a soccer ball at that point pops into your head randomly and you can't figure out how you could have a vested interest in it, I want you to come up with a process that works best for you, that erases the image and or sort of reset yourself, go to a blank state in any way, shape, or form you can. Some people even, will take the thing that popped into their head or the sound or the smell, and they'll imagine marking that up on a whiteboard or a blackboard, and then they clean that whiteboard or blackboard and they make it, start over fresh. So whatever that is, to get you back to point zero, back to, okay, that happened and now I'm going to reset. I'm going to rinse, okay, and repeat. The repeat step is twofold. Try to recreate that in your mind. And if it's super easy to recreate it with effort, using your imagination, that's a hint. It's probably your imagination. Now, rinse and repeat. Just sit, quiet the dog, have no outcome, don't care about what it is or how it's coming through, care about nothing, and just sit and allow. If it shows up again, then it's intuition. So what you're in essence doing is taking these teachings, and when something happens, you're stopping, you're resetting, and then you're using your imagination, and then you're resetting and using your intuition on purpose in this situation to see which way it comes through. And it's kind of a little bit of a magical game. It ends up being, to where you say, okay, so if I'm going to walk through this, walking through the day, and I'm walking through the park, and a duck pops in my head. Now I'm in a park. So my vested interest in this is that I associate ducks with parks. So now I don't know if it was my imagination or my intuition. This is the challenge. So I'm going to reset. I'm going to forget about it. I'm going to wipe it away. And I've got a blank slate in front of me, and I'm going to purposely recreate that image of the duck. And if it kind of gets recreated, okay, I tried that, that's great. Now I'm going to wipe it clean, and I'm going to just sit and allow, and I'm not going to create. I'm just going to allow. Literally, that's all you have to say. I'm just going to allow, but I'm not going to create. And if that same thing pops in quickly at the same level, boom, I know it was intuition. So this is the observer part. You now understand how the right brain functions, how the left brain functions, when information flows through which side, what happens, how the left brain can interrupt because it has a vested interest. So now you're stepping into the observer point of view, which is what I was referenced earlier. And in essence, what that is saying, I'm going to give the gift of time to myself, and I'm going to I'm going to evaluate this. It just happened. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to step back, and I'm going to step in with left brain and step in, allowing right brain, and see what happens with both. And I'm going to replay it. When you do this, this is the cool part. When you do this on a repeated basis, with repetition, first off, it gets quicker. And second, you start to feel. So the next time it happens, the next time I'm walking through a park and an image of a lollipop pops up in my head, or I smell brownies or cookies or something happens, I now know, oh, that feels like my intuition, or that feels like my imagination. So that leads me to tool number 2, discovery meditation. Discovery meditation was given to me by my guides years back when I was struggling with it. And when they gave it to me, I thought it helped me tremendously. And then I started to share it with people. And that's when it kind of blew the lid off this whole, like, yeah, we're all, struggling with this. Discovery meditation itself is literally guided meditations, which first off, that rocks. I don't know about you, but I love guided meditations. I don't want to think or figure things out when I'm doing this. But they are built to help differentiate between imagination and intuition. Not only are they built for that, but they're built to help you understand how your intuition flows best. So, and this isn't the prettiest picture, but this is actually the dashboard of the course. And I'll tell you how to get access to this course for free. But this is the dashboard, and I wanted to show it here because that's the list of meditations. They're not very long. And they're audio, so there's a video explaining it, an audio, and there's a lot of real beefy kind of information in there about intuition. Or do you get information quick or slow? Now, they're all different. So I actually have this picture up here for me because I never remember the names of all of them in order. But if you are the type of intuitive that the most accurate information comes through when you're reading really quickly, then the White Room meditation works for you. If you're a very active person and you're that person that it helps to fiddle with objects, then a beach run meditation is going to work for you. Car ride meditation, if you connect with guides. The library meditation, that is the type of intuitive that works well with a library meditation, is one that it takes them a while to get into the intuitive information, and the accuracy grows the longer they're in their intuitive state. So what happens when you go through discovery meditation is you know which ones work well for you and which ones don't work well for you. And the point of this, so it has a couple of pluses. The point of this that's helping for this particular session that we're doing today is that in each and every one of the meditations, all of them, there is a moment. So you're guided into the meditation, and then there's a moment where you are told to create. You're actually guided in, instructed to use your imagination to create. So you go into the meditation using your left brain. And then in the meditation, there's a point where it will say, now allow your intuition to deliver whatever messages need to come through. So in essence, the meditation is really cool because you use left brain, left brain, left brain, stop, use right brain, right brain, right brain, stop, use left brain, left brain, left brain. Just doing that on a repeat basis, you will start to feel the pull of intuition or the push of imagination. You will start to feel what it's like when you're one step ahead, creating something versus one step behind, being pulled through something. And that is hands down my favorite part of discovery meditation. Absolutely. I think it's a total cool plus that these will also help you figure out how your intuition works best for you. Are you better off with what you get first, or we're better off lingering for a while? And they're all set up in such a way that once you do them a few times, I still use the White Room meditation. So I'll be out and about and I need some information, but it's too close, it's too personal to me. So I will turn around and just do a quick White Room meditation. And I've done it so often, I don't even need to listen to the guided meditation anymore. I can just get into the White Room, hold still, something will pop up, and that's the answer I need. Two-door meditation is wildly popular with people because that is really, and I use that one still to this day too, because that one another added benefit to the 2-door meditation is that you can ask a question that has 2 answers, a yes and a no, or, you know, sell the house, don't sell the house, you know, take the job, don't take the job. And you can walk through that meditation. There's even some discussion in there on how to really kind of get yourself out of your own way. You can walk through the meditation and set up that one answer is behind one door and another answer is behind the other door. And when you open each door one at a time, you collect information and it helps you figure it out. I love this series. I love the meditation. And I'm bringing this out to everybody. I think I talked about this in the beginning, but I'm bringing this out to everybody because the Sage Circle is coming. The Sage Circle is coming, Sage Circle is coming. And this is really, has been formulating over years of building communities and working with students and figuring out what they really, really need. So I'm not going to go through all of these details. You can find them online. This was not an intention for a sales pitch, so I'm not going to go through all that, but I just want you to know that there are sacred space sessions, group sessions. We do spiritual cleanse a couple times a year together, a place where people can connect on Facebook if they like Facebook, and then just a library of videos just like this one, really, that covers different things, and a lot of live Q&As. There's going to be a professional level to the Sage Circle as well, which is super exciting because professional intuitives are really isolated. They're very alone. And for some of us, you know, that hermit life is good, but to be able to fill in the parts that you struggle with as a practitioner, you might not be strong with, you know, online media or something like that. Or you might be really great with, you know, building a website, but maybe not social media. So it helps fill in those gaps, and then it connects practitioners. And what I'm super excited about is that at some point very shortly, we will be setting up these personal levels and these professional levels and connecting people. The professionals who are looking to build their business and get practice sessions will be looking for people who want free sessions. Who doesn't want free sessions? So the whole thing is this sort of living, breathing unit to support people either on their personal path or on their professional path. So I'm really excited about it. But I want to summarize everything so I can kind of leave you really anchored in with knowledge, with the observer position, and moving forward. So what we have is we've got a right brain where intuition flows through. We have a left brain where imagination works and creates. Another way to say that is the right brain where intuition flows is the mail carrier delivering the messages. The left brain is the dog barking at the mail carrier. Just that knowledge alone, if that's all you leave with here today, it's very valuable, because when you know what's going on, you're able to take action. One very important thing I want to leave you with is creating what works for you. Doing exactly what works for somebody else isn't going to be the most effective for you. So creating your unique way to train your dog to shush is going to be the most beneficial for you. It's going to be just hands down. It'll work faster, more efficiently, and it'll quiet the dog better. So come up with a creative way to be able to allow your left brain to relax. I know students who, every time their left brain says something like, well, maybe it's this, or I think it could be, they put up like a little imaginary stop sign going, don't. Remember to let go of the outcome. Let go of what the answer might be. Let go of the care of what the answer might be, which is going to be very hard to do. So if you're trying to get intuitive information about something that's very close to your heart, it can be very difficult. Yes, professional intuitives get professional readings for that exact reason, because they want to think that it's intuition flowing through their right brain, but in essence, it's not. It's their imagination bubbling up because they have too much of a vested interest. That's that dog looking at peanut butter and saying, oh, I'm paying attention. So right brain, left brain, two different sources. All the messages that come through the same nervous system, use the same 5 senses. So you have to look, step back, be an observer, evaluate what happened. If something just popped in, a smell, a sight, a sound, step back and look at it from an observer point of view, replay it one way, replay it another way. Just that act of that exploration, just the act of saying, I'm going to review this, is going to start to separate the feelings between imagination and intuition. And soon, eventually, you will be able to have a moment and just know, okay, this is what it was. So, all right, train the dogs to stop buying the mail carriers. I want to say thank you to everybody for being here. I'm very excited about the Sage Circle opening up. I'm really excited about you accessing Discovery Meditation because it's just relaxing and it's really, really fun. So this was very exciting for me. And I thank you for coming. And I will see you in future sessions like this because I'm going to keep them going.